Bro, you cannot start like this.
Welcome back to our weekly episode of We're in Trouble Now. And as always, welcome to our kitchen.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? We're gonna have a good energy podcast. I'm full of sandwich. My stomach's a little like, because then I had one of those brand brownies.
Brown brownies.
You're making me have a hot flash. You try saying a brown brand brownie.
Brown brand brownie.
Yeah, one of those.
It's not a tongue twister. They're basically all the same word.
Brown brand brownie. Yeah. So I packed full of sub sandwich, which by the way was vegetarian, and brand brownie.
I don't think fiber works that quickly though.
No, I'm just saying I'm all giddy.
From what?
I'm on a bread high.
Yeah, I was a carb high. Yeah.
Yeah, because I never really eat bread, and I ate like. When do I ever eat bread?
You had bread last night.
Oh yeah. Well, I don't usually eat bread, but even like the little sandwich that just had like mayonnaise and mustard and that Italian dressing, even though there wasn't any cheese or avocado, I was like,
There was avocado in your sandwich. I saw it.
Yeah, but the little pieces.
Oh my God.
But the little pieces of bread that didn't have it, I still ate that because I was eating bread.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are my teeth good?
Well, no. You only showed me the bottom part. Show me the top. No, like Mr. Ed me. Let me see the top part of your teeth. Yeah, they're all right.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. That right there, I was like, yeah, they're not going to see.
Nobody's going to see.
I talk like this.
No, you don't. Because when you asked me to see if your teeth were all right, I saw the very part, like the bottom part of your teeth.
So that's just kind of the energy I want to keep up with this podcast. Just really fun.
Well, we got it.
All right, good.
So you ready to have really fun about talking about low self-esteem, which was a topic for this weekend?
Yes, I would. Yeah, you know what? I would absolutely love to.
Okay. Well,
eat lots of bread and brand brownies.
Ride that high.
Yeah.
But yeah. No. It was interesting because I woke up this morning. I woke up around like 3:30, and I kind of just stayed awake because that's generally right around where I wake up. And I saw this TikTok, and it was like 6 signs. It was actually the TikTok was about somebody doing a podcast.
Okay.
And the podcast and the guy was talking about 6 signs to see if you have low self-esteem. And I thought it was really interesting because some way or another, I consider myself a very positive person, but I would say at some point or another, I resonated with 6 of these 6 things. And so he said the first sign of low self-esteem is imposter syndrome. Oh. And, and he listed the 6, points of low self-esteem. And every single time I thought about social media or in terms of, where I put most of my work. And so I really, really resonated with all 6 points at some point in my social media kind of existence. And so like the first one was the imposter syndrome, which is, you almost feel like you're a fake or you're a phony in your regarded field or in your, whatever it is that you are doing. Mm-hmm. And I felt like that sometimes before where I'm like, especially too, with my TikToks and things like that. People are like, this is great. You're a fantastic creator. You're famous and things like that. And I'm like, oh, am I really? I don't think I am kind of thing. And so I kind of get a little into my head when it comes to that.
So now, because I know that just about 6 months ago, you you developed that game show. And
I actually saw the first. I looked yesterday because I went back to see how long I've been doing it. It has been about since the beginning of the year, so it's been 6 months.
6 months, yeah.
And the first one was terrible. I mean, it was cringy bad.
I was thinking, and really quick, just to interject, is because I went back through all my my YouTubes that had 900 views or more, and the first 4 actually fall in that category. Yeah. And I looked at one of them, and I was so mortified, I almost deleted it.
Oh, that's how I was with. I was like, I'll make a TikTok showing like then and now, but I was like the beginning was so bad. It was just low energy. I was very unsure of myself. I wasn't very confident to see if I didn't even know if anything was going to work. I didn't think people were going to like it. So I was very in my head. And it's interesting. Whereas now I have a product that I know people like, and then I've got a product that is more refined, but I still have in a way that imposter syndrome because I'm like, oh, I don't think I'm that entertaining, or I don't, every time I post a TikTok, I'm like, oh, I don't know if this will Like, are people going to be bored of this already kind of thing?
Right. See, because the thing is, and that's the question I was going to ask you, is because like in the beginning, I could see how you would, have an imposter syndrome, but you've developed it and it's so unique to you and it's such an awesome like thing that you're doing.
Yeah.
I'm really saddened that you still are having that kind of like imposter syndrome, even associated where you're at now.
Yeah, which was where what I consider my strongest trait. I don't even know about trait, but my ability to do it and do it, I think, pretty well. And this is the one thing I've always wanted to do. And now that I'm actually doing it, I'm still kind of like, oh,
yeah,
which is very interesting. Which is interesting too, because I really didn't consider myself to have low self-esteem, but there are segments where I think it kind of sneaks up on me, and it kind of comes. It's not like a constant pressure of low self-esteem, but it does kind of hit on me, especially towards the end of the week where I'm getting a little like fatigued and tired and things like that. So
see, because a lot of times people associate low self-esteem with like, like the way you dress or like, like maybe how you present yourself. But low self-esteem is like a very sneaky little enemy,
yeah, it's
because it
what
can,
you tell yourself.
and it can disguise itself in very many different ways. And by you see, because I'm always saying, the way I look at it, there's nothing stopping us on our social media journey but us.
Yeah.
We're the only people. We're going to be as successful as the energy we put into it. And so by you like still kind of holding back with that imposter syndrome, I really hope that maybe you can come up with some sort of like mantra as to like counterbalancing that.
Sure. Well, I have, at the end of this, I was going to talk about ways to counter. It's fine. You're batting 100 here, but
it's the brownies.
Yeah, it's the brownies. But yeah, no, it definitely does. It's not as bad as it was, especially in the beginning of like when I started streaming and things like that. It was pretty bad because I was like, oh, what am I doing, kind of thing. But yeah, so that was one that definitely resonated.
And really quick, I do see myself doing the same thing. If I'm going to be completely honest, because sometimes I'm like, oh, well, I'm not that, that successful. And so I think I'm keeping myself down by having that sort of self-inner thought.
Absolutely. So the second one of the 6 signs is people pleasing.
Ooh,
which is something that I think goes hand in hand with social media, because so many people are I don't say desperate, but so many people are willing to compromise their integrity for likes or attention and things like that. And I know I'm guilty of that when I first started streaming way back when, where I would try to appease the masses, and I would end up, spiting my, just hurting my own self. Was it you cut off your nose to spite your face kind of thing? And I was just trying to make everyone happy, and I was trying to please so many people. Whereas now I'm like, I just want to have fun.
Well, you know why you were doing that, right?
Why?
People turn into people pleasers, especially like on social media, because instead of having that confidence of like, what I'm doing, my platform is good. Yeah. You needed that outside praise. Yeah. So you were people pleasing to get that praise. That validation. Yeah. Whereas now, you fast forward to your Twitch and your platform now, you have this confidence now where you're like, this is my platform. I see where it's going. Yeah. Instead of you being like, hey, what do you think about this? And looking for that outside validation.
Well, not only that too, but like, seeing the results of everything. I'm going to keep using the game show in my live streaming as an example. That'll probably be like the main example of everything I'm saying today. But I use it, and I realize that it's such a really unique and popular product, and so I use that of like as an example of like, oh well, I know my value, or I know my self-worth because I know how good this product is. Not so much I know how good it is because people are telling me, but I feel good making it.
Oh yeah. And in what I hear, I mean, it's like absolutely fire, and it's something that nobody else is doing.
Exactly. I mean, I think people are starting to emulate it. I know people have mentioned that they're going to start doing it, but at first I kind of like I got a little depressed because I was like, well, it took me so long to find the spark, and people are going to try to steal my spark. But then I realized that, anybody can ask trivia questions, but there's a lot more to it. And just seeing the first part of me doing the video and the first time me doing the video actually like really made me feel really good to see how far I've come, that this is, it's not something anybody can just do.
So now, do you think that that was kind of an insecurity where you were thinking like they were going to take your idea and do it better than you?
Exactly. Yeah. I would say 100%. Yeah. I would say like, I'm like, oh, well, there goes my 15 minutes, you know, because they're going to take it and they're going to run with it. Especially because some of the people that were saying that, you know, they have a much larger platform than I am. And, you know, and at the time I was like, well, you know, just the big fish, little pond, or little fish, big pond kind of thing.
Yeah.
Whereas now I'm like, cause it's not, you know, anybody can, like I said, anybody can ask a question.
Oh yeah.
But it's how you deliver it, and you know, it's your personality, it's your confidence, and it's interesting to think that something that I do so confidently can also have something that makes me a little insecure about it. You know, which I thought was interesting.
But have you seen your own little personal growth? Because in the beginning, like let's just say a year ago, that would have derailed you.
Oh, absolutely.
You would have been
even a couple of months ago, I would think. I would say even around February or March, it would have derailed me. And you know, when I got the comment, I did get it a couple of months ago, and it's stuck with me. But now thinking back on it, and you know, just I think really honestly watching my old videos really did help to show that growth.
Oh yeah.
You know, to show that, you know, even the way I talk and present and, you know, carry myself now is so much more confident.
Oh yeah.
Which I think was really interesting. And it was funny because I showed some of my friends yesterday the video of me starting it, and they were like, a couple of them were like, I would not do this. They were like, especially after, because nobody would talk.
Right.
The first 5 or 6 days were just train wrecks.
Yeah.
You know, it was so bad, but I laughed at myself, and I just kind of like rolled with the punches. And the people that I did show, they're like, you know, I'm going to be 100% with you. If this is me, I would not do it. Yeah. You know, I would feel so like insecure.
Yeah.
I would be so embarrassed of myself to not push through it. And they were like, I'm really glad you did. And I think that's where that little bit of self-reflection came in, where I was like, oh shit. Okay. Like I'm not giving myself enough credit to like really take, you know, really give myself a pat on the back. And the pat on the back is like, hey, this is really cool. And it is absolutely apples and oranges to see how different the two are.
I was going to ask you now, are you proud? I mean, you should be proud of yourself.
Extraordinarily proud. Not only am I proud of how the game show is and how I carry myself, but, you know, it really has transformed so many things, like in terms of, you know, how I edit TikToks, and the whole editing of TikToks are different, and how I look at, you know, different aspects and different ratios. And, you know, before I used to think that the only people that would be successful in streaming are like really, really good people at video games. And it's the complete opposite. It's who's the most entertaining. And, you know, and now that I'm starting to get this kind of confidence and this sense of self-worth, the evidence and the reward is very, very noticeable. And, you know, I'm starting to reap a lot of success from it. It's been really nice.
Because the more secure you get, the more people are going to be drawn to you.
Absolutely. Well, I don't know, maybe I'm cutting myself not enough slack, but I do, you know, present myself in a very confident and energetic and engaging and fun way. And I think people are gravitated towards that kind of personality. And so, so it's been really nice to kind of see my then and now, and my you know, my villain, or not my villain, my growth, you know? So, so the third one actually really, really kind of is where I was starting to like think about, shit, this actually could be about me. And it's perfectionism or procrastination, which is something that I lack, or that I do both a lot. So I usually put off something until the very last second. We've talked about this on the podcast. And then when I do it, it has to be perfect. And it's really interesting to think that those two things were linked with low self-esteem. Yeah. You know, because you're like, well, this has to be good. If it's not good, my self-worth is not there. And it's really interesting to see that, like, oh, okay, that's actually regarding low self-esteem. Yeah. And I was going to say, as a mom, probably the most gut-wrenching thing that you do that I see is your perfectionism, because it's like your own mental prison. Yeah, you know, and like I saw this meme, or there's this saying or something like that a lot of people self-sabotage things because it makes them feel like they're in control, because they're the ones that choose to sabotage, so they have that feeling of control or power. Yeah, they're going to sabotage it before anybody else. Yeah, exactly. And that gives them the power, and that makes it, you know, it can get the validation. And I think the same can be said for perfectionism, where I'm like, oh, well, you know, if I do this and I don't do it as well as I think it will, if I don't post it, it's okay because I could have done better, or like, you think? Like, oh yeah, I would use that excuse before. You see, because I always read, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but I always saw it as you were so scared that it wasn't going to
be 100% that you came up with so many reasons not to do it. It was like you just didn't want that, you didn't want that failure.
Yeah, I could see that too. And I think maybe too, I used that, like that goal of being perfect as like like I said, an scapegoat, or maybe my ability to control this outcome, because like, oh, well, I can, it's not that great. It's not that good. Like it's almost like a way of dismissing and kind of shunning that, like, oh, you know what, just post it. Like, this is how you learn. Like, again, back to the game show. Like if I, I don't know why that instance. So I was like, oh, well, even if it's not good, it's still fun. Yeah. Whereas before it'd been like, well, if it's not good, I'm not posting it.
Now you realize that perfectionism goes all the way back to your childhood and what your dad did to you.
We've mentioned that. Yeah.
So I just, sometimes to me it's easier to see, it's easier for me to combat something if I know the root of where it came from.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's all I was saying.
I know you've mentioned it, and I understand the origins of it, but it's interesting to see the two that I didn't realize that they were so interlinked.
Yeah.
So the fourth one is comparing yourself to others, which I think is definitely something, especially in social media, that you do. Is obviously everyone competes for likes and follows, and I used to be very competitive with that kind of stuff. Like, oh, why does this person have more likes than me, or more subs, or more followers, or why does this person have more viewers than I do? I should be this and that. And it was interesting because I actually saw this TikTok a couple of months ago, and it was this really big old yoked dude, and he was doing the shoulder press, right? And he was with either his daughter, or not his daughter, but his girlfriend or his friend or his, his sister, something like that. And she was like, whoa, that's a lot of weight. And he was like, this is not that heavy, or not that bitch. I normally could do more. I'm just doing that. And he was like finding excuses.
Right.
And, he was like, oh, there's other guys that do more weight than I do. And she was like, comparison is the thief of joy.
Yeah.
And ever since I've heard that quote, it's been a lot more at peace with things, because I can't compare myself to other people, much like how you can't compare yourself with people at the gym. They're in a completely different walk of life. They're in a completely different, story than you are, and so you can't compare your life and your life goals and your adversity and your strengths to somebody else, because they're not comparable.
Right. So now, do you think more secure people, when they are like in our position where they're on social media and they're building their platform, and they look at other people's platforms who are more successful, do you think they look at it in a way of they're like, oh my gosh, these people are more successful? Or do you think they look at it in a way where it's like, oh wow, good for them, and I can get there too?
You can't, there's so many people out there. I can't speak for
I would just saying like a more secure person.
I think so. I think somebody who's more confident in themselves, they would be like, oh, that's killer. You're killing it. I mean, very similar like you and Austin Maples, right? You and Austin are like in a, I don't think Austin knows, but you are like, hey, how many followers does he have? I'm like, oh, he's got like 4K more. You're like, oh, I'll get him. At no point are you ever like, Austin.
Yeah.
Like that feeling of self-confidence is not the same as, comparing and almost feeling a little bit resentment for other people.
And on a personal note, I know that I myself, Robert, because I've in the last couple of years, and especially since therapy, I have found this boost of just like self-peace.
Yeah.
But before then, I would look at somebody who had more than me, whether it's more followers, more money, prettier, whatever it was, and I would be jealous.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And that's a very honest statement, and it's not an easy thing to admit. But I have noticed here lately, when I see something, I'll just be like, good for them.
Yeah.
And it's and it's been really very nice for me to not constantly have like that, oh, look at them kind of feel. Yeah. And I was never like mean or reaching out or did anything like that, but it was more of a way how I tortured myself with it.
Well, it's easier to point your finger at other people. It's this way you're not pointing it back at yourself, right? Because it's so much easier to kind of be like, oh, well, they're just prettier. That's why that's why they have this success, or that's where they are, where they is, or, they have more money, or they're more successful in things. Instead of being like, okay, well, what am I doing? What could I be doing differently?
Yeah.
Not necessarily wrong, but you're like, okay, well, where can I improve? Where can I, get better? Yeah.
Because to me, it's almost like, their road is their road, and
absolutely.
their success is their success, and their road has nothing to do with mine.
I mean, for example, right? I mean, like I got the game show idea because there is this guy who did a radio voice on the video game that I play. And I actually think he actually does the voice for Spotify.
Oh, wow.
His name's Pine FM, really cool content creator.
Mm-hmm.
And I had gotten the idea of the game show from him doing a radio show, because I was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. This is the coolest thing that I've ever I would like, he really inspired me. I was like, I would like to do something like this, but I don't want to take this idea because this isn't my idea to take, because I can only imagine, like we were just talking about, like how upset I would be if someone tried stealing my idea. I didn't want to take his. I mean, that's his niche. That's his road. And, and he's very, very successful in terms of followers, TikTok followers, viewers, subscribers. And I looked at him as more of an inspiration than like, oh, well, that guy, if I would have just gotten the radio voice sooner, I could have been this guy. It's a completely different ballgame.
But I don't think that you would have this. I mean, personally, I don't think you would have the same level of accomplishment had you have just taken his idea instead of being like, well, okay, cool idea. Now I'm going to make it my own.
Not even that, like pride.
Yeah.
I would feel dirty because I'd be like, well, this is this guy's kind of thing, whereas this game show, I mean, all the wording is mine.
Yeah.
I wrote it all. I came up with it. I came up with the name. It's my baby.
What is the name?
It's called You Betcha.
Oh, how fun.
Which I didn't realize, but Natty Life's a beer company.
Yeah.
They have something very similar called You Betcha.
Oh, okay.
But I was like, I don't know. Because I wanted, I don't know if you remember Anchorman.
Yeah.
But in Anchorman, there was the weather guy.
Mm-hmm.
And
whammy.
He'd go whammy.
Yeah.
No, the sports guy. He was the sports guy. He goes, and whammy.
Yeah.
And I wanted something like that. So like when somebody got something right, I go, you betcha. But I always forget, and I keep forgetting to say you betcha after somebody gets it right.
Well, that's really cool, right?
Yeah. So things like that. And so that if I was to compare, who that gentleman is, Pine FM, if I was to compare him and feel resentment instead of inspiration, then who knows where I'd be at this moment, right? So so that was really interesting for me to think of, like in terms of instead of comparing myself like to other people and like using that as an scapegoat or as a vice to justify my shortcomings. It was more of like, oh, dude, I want to emulate that. I want that level of success, and I'm going to find it my own way.
Now, when you look at other content creators that are farther along the road than you, do you catch yourself at all being like, oh?
No, not at all, actually, anymore.
Good.
Now it's more, I think now, like I said, it's more a confidence thing. Whereas like there's other content creators who, have, 3, 4, 5 times as many viewers and, 8, 9, 10 more times more subscribers and making more money. I don't look at it as a us versus them. I look at it like, hey, that person worked really, really hard to get where he's at right now, or he or she worked really hard to get where he's at right now, and they deserve all the success because I know how hard this is.
See, and I think that right there is the key to know that what you have developed is a good product.
Absolutely.
Because otherwise you'd still be like...
Yeah, I'd be like, well, maybe I'll steal that. Or maybe I'll do that.
Now I need to get inspiration from that. Or why did they come up with that idea and I haven't come up with my own?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, so it was really interesting. And I thought that was, it's been a really nice couple of days of like self-reflection because I take the weekends off to kind of work on things and improve things. And it's really, I was just talking about this yesterday, that it's really crazy to see how much growth has been happening in such a short amount of time. It's been. Yeah,
I'm excited for you. I keep on telling you how excited I am for you.
Yeah. So it's cool. So we're on 5 now. Number 5 is this one. This one I tend to do a lot, but it's called avoiding social interactions. So like when people are like, "Oh, we should game together, or we should play together, or let's hang out, or let's do this," I'm like, okay. I mean, sometimes I'm like, well, I don't even know what the weather is like outside. I haven't left my house,
Yeah. I mean, it's like, and I can see that in myself too, because I was on that group chat with all those people for TikTok, and I think I've said 2 things, and it's my own insecurity of like saying something that is going to make me look
really
silly.
When I saw that, I used you as more of an inspiration than more of an example, right? Because you're going to go thrift shopping with...
but I'm comfortable with her. I know her. And there's these
That's
other...
still a social interaction.
Yeah, but these other people, I mean, they seem really nice, but I haven't been following them and all of this. So to me, I was really proud of myself that I am going to be meeting her and doing stuff like that. So I could see my growth there. Yeah. But like this group of people, I'm still... I guess it's because it's a group of other people's friends of a different age group and all of that. I mean, but if I see something in the group chat that I think I can add value to, I'll say it. If not, I'm just going to be like,
yeah, well, it's not, it's not like avoiding every social interaction.
Yeah.
I mean, so there's a difference. I always think of myself as an introvert parading around as an extrovert. You know, I'm very, very social when I'm in a very comfortable surrounding, such as like, like the stream, or, I'm at the gym, or if I'm at some place where I'm comfortable. And I think you would fall under the same thing. You're very comfortable with this girl who you're going to go thrift shopping with, you're very comfortable in certain aspects. And then that's when your extrovert shines. So it's not so, but it would be one thing if like she was like, hey, let's go thrift shopping. You're like, oh, sorry, I got a puppy back at home, and she needs to be watched. So, that is the avoiding, I think.
Yeah. And also too, I mean, cause I was thinking about it this morning when we were cleaning, and I know that I'm more quiet than usual just because I'm not comfortable in the situation.
Yeah, that's understandable.
But that's my protection too.
Yeah, some people do that. And I think some people, and that's a good example for low self-esteem, because they're not comfortable or confident enough to enter those social engagements where they would be uncomfortable.
But you see what's really weird, Robert, is you could put me in front of an arena full of people and tell me to talk about things that I'm passionate about. I wouldn't have a problem.
But that's where you're comfortable.
That's where I'm comfortable. That's true.
That's your introvert shining as an extrovert kind of thing. I love public speaking.
But I know. Isn't that weird?
I mean, I love public speaking, but I would literally get in a cold sweat if I was to attend a concert.
Yeah.
Like if I was to like go and just be in a crowd of people watching somebody perform.
With a group of people you don't know.
With a group of people I don't know, I'd feel very uncomfortable.
Oh, yeah.
But whereas they were like, hey, you want to come up on stage and just say some words, I'd be perfectly fine.
Yeah.
So it's where we find our strengths and weaknesses. Yeah. And then the last one is hypersensitivity, which I think is really interesting, which is where I think I fell as that example of that guy who said he was going to use my idea. And he wasn't going to use it like flat out. He was going to put his own spin on things. But I was very sensitive for the idea of somebody stealing my idea. Dog.
But the thing is that, Robert, it's like he did everything right. I mean, he told you.
Straight up, he was like, hey, this is a really good idea. I'm going to do something very similar that is still under my niche that you don't do. But I'm also going to give you credit. And so like I think he did everything professionally, because he's like a math teacher. And so he'll quiz people on the game with math questions. And he was like, I'd love to do this as well, but with math questions. And of course I'll give you credit. And at first I was like, why is this guy stealing my idea? He's got 200,000 followers. He should be making his own ideas, blah, 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 blah. Whereas now I'm like, yeah, dude, give me credit. I'd love more free publicity.
And the thing is that chances are he's not going to be able to emulate it enough to even keep it going.
It's not, it'll be a completely subgenre of my thing. And whereas before I was very sensitive about him stealing my idea, whereas now I'm like, yeah, dude, run it, because the words that are being said or the questions aren't what makes it so much fun. It's, my interactions, it's my engagement, it's me, my personality is the value, not the questions I'm asking. And if you were to ask me that a couple of months ago, I would say it's the complete opposite.
Right.
I would say it's because nobody else is asking questions. It's not, it's you who is asking the questions, which I thought was very interesting. And so it's been interesting to see this list because there's points where I have absolute 100% with 100% confidence of times of super low insecurity. Whereas, maybe just acknowledging it and saying out loud and, me talking to you over the podcast has been very comforting to know that my insecurity isn't as low or my self-esteem isn't as low as I once thought it was.
Yeah. Yeah. I was just going to ask you that. I mean, given like the 6-month period, I mean, do you sit back and be like, wow, I see a lot of personal growth?
Yes and no, I would think. I think, I really, to be honest with you, the next part of this thing is talking about small goals or acknowledging small goals to help raise self-esteem. And I don't think I give myself enough credit for that. I think I keep myself very busy. So I am constantly trying to chase this carrot on a stick where I don't give myself enough time to appreciate all the milestones, all the growth, all the success that has come from hard work and dedication.
Yeah. Sometimes it's the quiet in your mind is the most dangerous.
Yeah,
because that's when your thoughts that you have to push aside because you stay so busy, that's when they come out.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's like if there's something that you want to, that that you have to address, but you don't want to, staying super busy helps you
absolutely
be able to not have to, address that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it's easier, like you say, it's easier to not, be mean to yourself if you got something to do, if you're preoccupying yourself. So.
See, but also too, in that manner, Robert, you have taken that time where before you turn in, you read your book a little bit.
Oh, I love reading.
And that's like a nice quiet time for your brain and for you to kind of process without feeling like, okay, I'm just going to let my voices or my mind go crazy.
Yeah, because that's what generally would happen is before I would start reading, before I go to bed, I'd listen to, I'd watch TikTok for like 45 minutes to an hour. So my eyes would actually be hurting when I'd lay down. And because my eyes were hurting, I couldn't relax and fall asleep. And because I couldn't relax, my mind just started running and I was just ripping myself apart.
Right. I'm going to move my bench a little.
Okay, move your bench a little. So those are the 6 signs of whether or not you had low self-esteem from that podcast. And then I actually found an article on Forbes.
From that TikTok.
Yeah, from that, excuse me. Well, it's a TikTok about a podcast.
Okay.
And then I actually found a Forbes article talking about boost your self-confidence with self-acknowledgement. And the author of the article starts it by saying, it says, many of us tend to underappreciate the minor things we do successfully every day because we most easily remember experiences that are accompanied by strong emotions, such as those times when we made a mistake or failed at something. We tend to be excellent self-critics, and those critical thoughts lead us to experience depleting emotions such as guilt, shame, and embarrassment. And it says, when you train yourself to acknowledge and celebrate your progress, no matter how small, you can change your inner dialogue, broaden your perspective, and prime yourself for even more confidence. And then he gives you a couple of tips. And the first tip is just reflect back on your life. And so very similar to like, what we were talking at the beginning of the podcast, where I was in the beginning 6 months ago to where I am now, these milestones, these achievements, this growth has been really evident, whereas it was interesting because even just yesterday and even this morning, I thought it was very linear. Whereas there was a huge spike in growth in terms of confidence, voice training, question asking, just a whole bunch of everything. And so like, it's not as linear as I thought. I think the amount of goals and achievements are much more higher than I'm giving myself credit for. And it makes you feel really good to reflect back on it and be like, oh shit, okay, actually, this is actually really legit. Yeah. Reflecting back on your life to find success and decisions you've made and getting there.
See, I think that's really cool, Robert. And I think some of the times I was like kind of a smother mother because I was trying to I could see like those little insecurities holding you back. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to over mother you and give you all this confidence. Whereas the only thing I was doing was pushing you like farther down and smothering you.
Breathe, so this next one says list your daily accomplishments, which I think is really cool. And it's not even like, and it says at the end of the day, write a list of 3 things you have achieved that day. Like I said, these don't need to be big achievements. It's likely that you have had small wins throughout the day that you have overlooked, like remembering to do something or the time and attention that you give a loved one. So like, even like right before I finish my book, I or we turn off the lights. I'm like, oh, I'm really proud of the games I did today, or I'm really proud of the TikTok I edited, or, I went really hard in the gym and, just small little things. And I think, like he says, we overlook the small things because they're not as monumental as like maybe being afraid or the bad fuck ups and things like that. So.
Now, how comfortable are you with saying something positive about yourself?
It's interesting. I actually have, on the stream, right? I have, people who watch the stream, they collect, currency basically is what it would be. And you can redeem your currency for things to do. Like, for example, one is to, it's called hydrating. You redeem it and I'll take a drink of water to keep me refreshed. Others are like, I get to guess their real name and things like that, or I guess the origin of their username. And there's another one that says give a compliment. And so I'll give a compliment to somebody and they're genuinely very heartfelt and they're very sincere. And the only time I struggle is when they tell me to compliment myself.
Yeah.
And so they're like, well, give yourself a compliment. And I'm like, I don't know where to start. I do not know where to compliment myself. Maybe it's just because I'm not giving myself enough credit. Oh yeah. Or maybe because I'm not acknowledging all I've done, or maybe I don't want to seem conceited or arrogant. And so like those are the only times that's the only time I ever really struggle is when I have to give a compliment to myself and not somebody else.
See, there is such a huge difference between self-love and conceitedness or selfishness or arrogance. Yeah. I mean, it's like, it's one of them is like, hey, you know what? I'm a good person. The other one is like, hey, I am the best person in the world and you don't matter. And by you complimenting yourself and by you finding good value in yourself or things that you can just be like, wow, you know what? That's a really cool aspect of who I am. Yeah. all of that love is going inwards, you're not taking it away from anybody.
Mm-hmm.
So, my suggestion would be is just to really practice like small self-love, just little itty bitty steps.
But it actually leads into the third one. And it's, this is the last one. It says, compliment yourself in the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
And it says, when you look in the mirror every morning or when you wash your hands, make it a practice to say something uplifting and kind to yourself. For example, you may think, I'm so proud of you for ... You are worthy. You did a great job when ... It can sometimes be awkward to practice self-acknowledgements or self-affirmations in front of a mirror. I recall feeling silly and uncomfortable for the first few times I did it to myself. However, the more you practice this, the more you practice this powerful technique, the more familiar and comfortable it would become.
Yeah.
And so it kind of just leads into what you're saying. And I think it's really powerful to say it in the mirror because you're actually you're looking into yourself.
Yeah.
You're looking into your eyes, and the compliments don't have to be anything crazy or to start with, but they do have to be sincere. And I think it's a great stepping stone to gaining more confidence.
Because when I first got sober, I struggled and I could not look in the mirror and say, it is okay to be okay.
Yeah.
I couldn't say the words. I would stand there and just be like, just dead space.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting on my tub and just like, why can't you say it? And it took me a while to be able to just tell myself in the mirror, it was okay to be okay. And I still tell myself that quite often, that it's just okay to be okay.
Yeah.
You know what? Nobody is winning this magical lottery of happiness. It's whether or not we choose to just be like, I'm going to allow happiness into my life.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing, Robert. I mean, you have to start small, like it says, but I think over time it will get easier and easier.
Yeah, and I think like you say, you start opening up your eyes to like all the good things that you can do or that you've done or that you're proud of. And it's super hard to be like, well, right off the bat, I'm amazing at this or I'm really cool at this. But I do think it requires a lot of growth. Very similar to like how it took me a long time to find my self-voice and my confidence. I think it's going to take a long time for me to be like, oh, well, let me give myself really, really good compliments.
Okay, so let me ask you this, and you can tell me if you think this is a good idea or not.
Okay.
But why don't you start complimenting like 5-year-old Robert or 6-year-old Robert?
There are different walks of life.
But I'm
so
just
5-year-old Robert was, like I don't think that would work out as well as I think it would.
Okay.
Because I think if I was to compliment and start acknowledging like 5-year-old Robert, I think it would bring up a lot more trauma and a lot more past experiences.
Totally
that would
respect that. Yep.
That would be very harmful.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So nope, totally respect that.
Yeah.
So, today Robert has all sorts of things that you can compliment yourself for.
Today or tomorrow, like I like, that's what I like. That's what I like the most about sobriety is it gives me more opportunity to look for the future than it does to look in the past.
Yeah. I think I heard on RuPaul and he said that you can't change yesterday, but you can, you're in control of tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's how I like to live it. Yeah. But so that was my topic I thought of today.
I really like it.
Thank you.
You know what? And I think that those 6 things, I think it can resonate in everybody. And I think everybody does have those insecurities. It's when you put all 6 of them in one person at one time.
Yeah.
It can become detrimental.
But not only that, but also some people might be like, oh, well, I have 1 of the 6 or I have 2 out of the 6. And like, oh, well, I didn't realize that was, low self-esteem. And, like I'll start cognitively working on gaining it. So I thought it was super cool. And I did.
I like that a lot.
Well, good.
Yes, that went well with my bread high. And
it went fantastic. It was a great segue.
Yeah, but you know what? It's important and it's really good information to share.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, do you want to tell them where to find us?
I absolutely do. You can find Robert on Twitch, YouTube, and TikTok as Sherbert. And on Instagram, he is Robert Pike. And I am across the board as gray hair and tattoos.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, everybody. I have not an subject for next week, but it's going to be a doozy. So I'm going to feed Robert a lot of bread, and then he can start off the podcast.
Go. Yeah, then I'll do it.
Yeah. And then have a great week. We appreciate you very much, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Okie dokie.
All right. Bye.
Bye.